Welcome back to the 4A Baseball Podcast, ladies and gentlemen. Today we have one of the most anticipated ones because we hit our second favorite for one of our hosts. We got Tom's Giants and we got Arizona Diamondbacks, the actual fun team to talk about here. It's young, it's exciting, and they're not going to a retirement home after this season. Arizona last year went 74-88, but it was a good improvement. Like it was a good 74-88. Zach Gallen had his breakout. Merrill Kelly also had a breakout. Ketel Marte was a bit under his standards, but you know what? Down seasons do happen. How are you guys doing today?
I'm doing good. I'm ready to talk about the best team in baseball and the Arizona Diamondbacks. These are two of the most volatile teams in all of baseball, and I think you can agree with that. These teams will be either good or bad. They could be right in the middle. They have a very high range. Stebbs, how are we doing?
I'm excited to talk about it. I think we're all high on Arizona, and by high, I mean like having them play at least better or comparable to the San Francisco Giants. The Giants are the epitome of mediocre, but they did go out and they got a lot of pieces. A lot of pieces is probably an overstatement considering
No.
what Tom's anticipation of their offseason was going to be. But I think overall, I think both. I'm excited to talk about both these teams.
Yeah, so we're gonna go kick it off in Arizona. The Snakes are playing for rings. Obviously, they're a World Series contender this year. No, but there's a young core with a solid, like good young pitching prospects that can come up. And they made some good offseason moves, Chaz. What are those moves?
So they did lose. They lost Kenyon Middleton, Ian Kennedy, Sergio Alcantara, Jordan Luplow. They traded Cooper Hummel and traded Dalton Varsho. But in return for those two players, in the Cooper Hummel trade, they got Kyle Lewis, and then they got Lourdes Gurriel Jr. and Gabriel Moreno in that Dalton Varsho trade. Um, I think we, I think we both, or at least Tom and I, really like Kyle Lewis, and we are very, very hopeful that he will have a resurgence in Arizona. Moreno and Varsho are definitely Moreno's going to be very good. He hits the ball hard and he does a lot of things well. Then they went out, they signed Evan Longoria, re-signed Zach Davies, and signed Andrew Chafin. Those are all 1-year deals.
I like it.
I think it's a good offseason. Yeah, Brad, go ahead.
Like they didn't have to do much. They didn't have to go out and compete in the shortstop market. Um, and these are also like if push comes to shove and it's really just a couple guys that are doing well this year and the team's not doing great. Longoria, Davies, and Chafin could all be trade deadline guys. And you're not really going to hurt anyone else's contracts by selling at the deadline if you have to.
Yeah, I feel like this is a team that's not necessarily at that point where they're like, it's happening. I feel like there's about one or two more seasons before the real takeover happens and they're threatening the NL West, which by the way is the best division in baseball other than maybe the NL East. I mean AL East and NL East, man. So the East, NL East and AL East, and then the NL West. The NL West is good, Stevs, other than the Rockies. The Rockies pull it down so hard.
Yeah, but so is the AL West. It's just the Centrals that suck.
Yeah, but I just think they're not necessarily at that point of contention yet.
I think you're overhyping the Giants, Tom.
I'm talking about the Diamondbacks.
I know. But you're saying like the NL West is the third most competitive, which there is an argument for it. But I think you're overhyping
I just
Giants.
feel like everyone's forgetting how many games we won 2 seasons ago. That
yeah,
doesn't just happen
seasons
out
ago.
of
Your
nowhere.
team's completely different from then.
No. Anyways, back to the Diamondbacks. I think this is a team that had. I think this is already a successful rebuild. I think we're approaching a small dynasty slash dominant run here from the Diamondbacks in the next couple seasons. Do I see it being this season starting? No. I think it's the next season. But the offseason moves that they did were all good in my opinion. I think getting Gurriel and Moreno were both steals for Dalton Varsho, who I think is a slightly overrated at this point. And then I think me and Steph, as you mentioned, love Kyle Lewis. So I think you brought in some good pieces.
I think we're going to really look forward to our Arizona Diamondbacks 2024 preview.
That's what I'm already excited for. Like, because this team has gotten slowly better. Actually, not slowly, quickly better. Like last season's preseason predictions, I would have predicted them to win like 70 games. And now I'm not expecting them to win that many more, but like I'm still expecting them to win. And they have a future. That's what I'm saying now. There's a direction, and I like it.
I mean, for me, if they have a 500 or better season, then I could see them trying to be a little more competitive in the free agency market.
I think they're going to be because they have prospects coming up. We'll talk about some of the ones that are going to really affect the roster this year. But the Diamondbacks, they also have this Drew Jones guy. Fairly decent. He's a little bit far away. They've got this Jordan Lawler character. He'll be there soon. Like that's your shortstop and center fielder of your franchise. That's what they're supposed to be at least. And so that means that they can go work on the peripherals, but this free agent market's not the best.
Yeah, and I feel like they are a team that should be aggressive maybe at the deadline if they're in that contention. Because I mean, I could easily see them being in that. Actually, no. I mean, there's a chance that they get in that wild card race. Do you think there's even a chance they enter that wild card race?
Not
I
really.
mean, no, I mean, you have the Giants that they're competing in their own
Yeah.
division. They're not better than the Dodgers or the Padres. They're not better than the Phillies, Mets, or Braves. I mean, they're not better than Miami either. So like, I don't think they're in contention. I mean, if they are, then I think they definitely should go. I mean, I'm not saying go all in, but like if they could make a good deal and a bargain, try and go do it.
I could see the Diamondbacks at the trade deadline, even if they're out, trying to deal a couple like lower tier prospects to a team that might be selling, like the Brewers, Willie Adames or something. So they have a guy going forward for when their prospects are ready. They can move Willie Adames over to second base, third base, wherever. But they still have a piece there where they can go from trades instead of having to sign in free agency.
Yeah, I think a move like that would make sense. There's so many young guys coming up that the only open position on this field for him is probably like third base. The team is stacked. There is depth on this team now. So I mean, if you want to get into the rotation so we can work down to the lineup, we can go through all the individual players that are, blocking these young guys from coming up. Stebbs, you want to start us off with the rotation?
Yeah, and number one, Brad's favorite player, Zach Gallen, Merrill Kelly, Madison Bumgarner, Tom's favorite player, and then Zach Davies and Ryan Nelson. So that's their starting five. It's honestly, it's not a bad starting five at all. Madison Bumgarner is not what he used to be on the Giants, but he is definitely still a baseball player. Past that, Merrill Kelly does his thing. And Brad, you want to talk us through Zach Gallen's season?
Well, Zach Gallen was a Cy Young candidate last year, and he showed signs of life in 2020 and 2019 when he was up in MLB. He's a guy that pounds the strike zone. He gets swings and misses both in the zone and outside of the zone, which is a really good sign of success. Zach Gallen went down the stretch. And I think he had a 44 scoreless inning streak, which was top 10 all time. And just everything surrounding it also supported the fact that he was a really good pitcher. And there's no signs of stopping. The kid's young, he's good, and he's got a good pitching coach behind him as well.
Yeah, that's a good point. The pitching coach is very good because they brought in a guy like Zach Davies, who was probably bottom 5% in the league in every statistic in 2021. And then he didn't turn into a great pitcher, but he turned into more of a soft contact type of guy. I mean, that's what you get in this with this pitching coach. There is some progression. I mean, I will say Zach Davies and Madison Bumgarner are a bit underwhelming in this rotation. You got young guy Ryan Nelson coming up, and Merrill Kelly is severely underrated at this point. But do you think there's enough depth in this rotation to be considered like a top 10, top 15?
Yeah, I do. I think they've got three kids that are coming up that could really benefit. Ryan Nelson being like the one that's kind of etched into the rotation. I could honestly see Bumgarner getting the boot.
Yeah, it's happening. It's gonna happen soon.
Let's head over to their bullpen. They got Andrew Chafin, Kevin Ginkel, Joe Mantiply, Mark Melanson, Miguel Castro, Scott McGough, Kyle Nelson, and Corbin Martin. I actually like this bullpen. Like, it's not the best bullpen we've covered so far. I don't hate it.
I think this bullpen has a lot of like it's like good. It's good bullpen arms. It's nothing great. It's
Yes.
nothing exceptional. Maybe outside of like Andrew Chafin is one of the best lefty relievers in baseball, completely underrated. But it's got 3.5 ERAs written across the board. And I think that's perfectly acceptable for a bullpen.
Yeah, there's no standout guy who's gonna just take this closer role. But I mean, Joe Mantiply showed signs of stardom last season. Andrew Chafin's good. They got two good lefties. Mark Melanson in his age 75 season, but he's still somewhat effective on the mound out there. And obviously you got the younger guys coming up. If they can't make it in the rotation, they might be in that relief spot. So there's definitely a lot of pitching on this team and a lot of potential on the defensive side.
Yeah, I think
Melanson's almost 40. I know, 38. He's almost 38. He turns 38 at the end of the month.
Yeah, that's another guy who could get moved if they're just like, all right, you know what, we're in a good spot like for next year, but let's just get rid of a few pieces and get ready for next year. I think the Andrew Chafin pickup was really good. They got him at a discounted price, and it's a solid bullpen. It's not going to win you a division or a wild card spot, but it'll keep you competitive.
You guys ready for this lineup? So you got Corbin Carroll out in left field, Ketel Marte at second, Jake McCarthy in right, Christian Walker at first, Josh Rojas at third, Lourdes Gurriel Jr. at DH, Alec Thomas in center field, Gabriel Moreno behind the dish, and Nick Ahmed at shortstop. Their bench consists of Carson Kelly, Evan Longoria, Kyle Lewis, and Geraldo Perdomo. I like this lineup. I mean, again, I think we're high on this team, but
yeah, Fangraphs originally had Carson Kelly penciled into the catcher position, so I went and fixed that for them. You've got one of the top catching prospects in baseball. He's going to be the opening day catcher. Carson Kelly should not be blocking a top prospect catcher. You got great defense of Nick Ahmed, but then you go towards pretty much 1 through 7, and you have like actual like contributors, not just everyday players. You got contributors to a lineup.
Yeah, and I think having Corbin Carroll, the fastest player in baseball, leading off is probably something that they would want. So there's a lot of things in this lineup that are working out for him. Says what are you saying?
He is. Did you guys see the video of him on
Yeah.
Instagram? He is so fast. Jesus. I just so to Tom and I's love for Kyle Lewis, I'm sad that he's blocked off because all three of the outfielders are probably going to stay that way. I wish you could get an everyday opportunity to really try and iron out his things, but maybe a bench role will benefit him.
I could see him taking Jacob McCarthy's spot if there was any spots to be taken. Jacob McCarthy kind of struggled with like hard hit baseballs last year. The defense is pretty solid from what I remember, but I just think if any spots are available, it is Jake McCarthy's for the taking. Just double checking his defense, and it was aggressively average. With
he's just fast.
298 yeah, he fits into that profile though. I do think Jake McCarthy might move down that lineup more towards the Alec Thomas spots of that lineup.
For sure. I think by the end of the season, Kyle Lewis will get some time in the field. He'll get a chance to prove himself again. We just got to hope he makes it a full season without going down with another injury like he has been.
Agreed. I wanted to look at Josh Rojas real quickly to see if like he's going to stay at third base or it's going to be Evan Longoria, because Evan Longoria is going to be a great leadership player on that team. I think it was a really good signing.
Yeah. He was great. He's a very good player. He was good on the Giants. He was just always injured. I mean, when he was on the field, he was pretty effective. I mean, like very effective. Not like an all-star level, but he could hit, and he still could field, by the way. So I mean, it's just his health that's a concern, and I think it should concern the Diamondbacks a little bit. But I think that's why they have him on the bench, I guess.
Evan Longoria will be the third baseman at some point this season. That's my scouting report on Josh Rojas.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, this lineup's a little bit questionable. I can see Moreno going up, Thomas going up, Gurriel going up, McCarthy scooting down, and Rojas scooting down a good bit. And their bench, again, we touched on Longoria and Lewis. Geraldo's a perfect, utility man infielder for backup. Like it's solid. It's solid.
I honestly think like I'm not gonna say it's the most well-rounded lineup, but it's like the most like top to bottom. I'm not gonna say like mediocre lineup, but like none of these players are gonna be showstoppers. They're maybe outside of Corbin Carroll if he's what we think he is, which so far he has been. But none of these players are gonna be showstoppers. They're gonna go out there, bring their lunch pail, get the job done, and go back home.
And this is a slightly above average at everything team.
Yeah.
And then to talk about some of them prospects, obviously we've mentioned Corbin Carroll. He's got that 80 grade speed. He's got a really high strikeout rate in a small sample. But in those 32 games, that small sample, he put up 1.4 WAR. That's a pretty good ratio, if you ask me. He walked a lot in the minor leagues, but it hasn't really kicked in yet. And then in the 32 games, he had 5 outs above average in only 32 games. So that's, 25 outs above average for 160 games. That's pretty good. And They've got Brennan Fat, big Brad guy. He's capable of getting whiffs on every pitch, which is a really good thing. Hence Zach Gallen. Mid to upper 90s. He should enter like he's supposed to be entering as a mid rotation starter. Good strikeout total, but he does struggle a bit in the FIP category, which is a little bit telltale sign that he might walk a guy or two. But you know what? That's okay.
Yeah, I think this should be a definite call up for midseason. I think Brandon Fat deserves a chance. I mean, he's been when you succeed in the AAA level, you deserve to get a call up, especially when there's guys like Madison Bumgarner and Zach Davies in your way.
Yeah, and I think he could easily be there. Stubbs, what are you gonna say?
No, I was gonna say that I mean, we've talked about him a bunch. What episode did we
Rookie
have?
draft.
Was the rookie draft? And I think we all kind of fell in love with him at that when we throughout our time talking about him and when we were doing research for that. So I think we're all kind of excited to watch him play.
Yeah, and they've also got Ryan Nelson, who we mentioned, slotted into that starting rotation. He had a 2.24 expected ERA in his 18 innings last year. That's pretty good. His four seam is really effective, and in 18 innings, it already had a -5 run value, which means it could easily be one of the best pitches in baseball. His issue is he just drops off from 92, 93 to 81, 82. He needs something to kind of connect the dots there. So hitters aren't just sitting back. If it's not a fastball, you have an opportunity to drive something to the opposite field. And then lastly, they have Dre Jamison. He offers a variety of locations, but his changeup was just sprayed high and into righties, which I don't think you want to leave a changeup there. Slider and sinkers are both really good. And one unique thing about him is that a lot of the Diamondbacks, you think Zach Gallen, you think Merrill Kelly, they work on the vertical plane. Jameson has the option and opportunity to break the mold if he works horizontally, and that gives him additional value because it's a unique lens. He could easily come out as a multiple inning reliever to begin the season and maybe find a spot in that starting rotation.
Yeah, I mean that's three big pitching prospects for this team. Do you really think that all three of them will get the chance this season to pitch at a major league level?
I mean, Nelson and Jameson were both up for points last year. Obviously we know
Yeah.
Nelson will be up on the opening day roster, but I think Jameson should be.
Yeah, I'm excited to watch these guys. I think there's definitely maybe a potential for a six-man rotation at some point during the season to get more reps in for the young guys.
Definitely. All right, you guys ready to head into predictions?
Yeah, Stebbs, lead us off.
You want me to? Okay.
Yeah.
Standings. I had them going 80 and 82. Much better than they were last season. And slightly below 500, fourth in the NL West. MVP I have as Corbin Carroll. I think he kind of needs to come in and be that type of star that we kind of expect him to be. So he is also most important for this team. Cy Young, Zach Gallen, and then breakout. We talked about him a bunch. I love him. Kyle Lewis. I think even if he doesn't have your traditional breakout, I think he'll have that type of his career will kind of be saved by being a bench bat type of player.
I like that.
Yeah, I'm right about there with you. I saw Brad's facial reaction. I'm not sure if he's lower on them or higher on them with the record. I am at 79 and 83. So it's not much, not off much for you, Stebbs. I had their team MVP as Christian Walker. Obviously, cleanup in this lineup will be very important. I think he's going to hit another 30 bombs, maybe 35 bombs. He might be up there in that home run chase. For the most important player, I have Zach Gallen. I think we're starting to overrate him. I'm not saying overrate him in the sense that he's not one of the best in baseball and he's not going to win the Cy Young, but I feel like we kind of treat him like he's been a perennial Cy Young candidate for like 10 years in a row. He's only been good for one season, and it's like if he gets injured, this team is kind of screwed, you know. So there's a lot of weight on Zach Gallen. And then Cy Young, I have Gallen again. Very important player to this team, and he should be leading this rotation. And then the breakout, I have Corbin Carroll. Shocking.
Mine was literally the exact same as Tom's, minus the record, which was a whopping 80 and 82. I was making the face because it was the exact same record. I have Christian Walker, MVP, Zach Gallen, Cy Young, and most important, and the breakout is Corbin Carroll. I think there's pieces on this team that are pretty consistent, but there's going to be a lot to watch on the outside of like the main stars of the team, where some teams like some middle of the pack teams, there's just going to be you watch the stars and there's not really anything surrounding it that you're excited to watch Tom and his Cubs. Like the Diamondbacks, there's actually like people that you should be excited to watch. Like I will tune in to watch some of the rookies pitch. Like it's a fact.
Yeah, I feel like this team more than other teams that are doing these weird reverse rebuilds. This team has done it the right way. I think this rebuild will work out for them, and I'm excited for the future. I don't think it's going to start this season, but I think we're going to start seeing these flashes.
I agree. And so we talk about the future, right? I think this ceiling is only like an 84, 85 win team. And this is
Yeah,
where
I have them
everything
right up
goes
there.
correctly, but it's like it's still a respectable number.
Yeah, I feel like if everything goes right, I mean, you got Ketel Marte back at his like MVP level. You got like Christian Walker hitting 35 bombs. Corbin Carroll steals you like 30 bags and hits doubles, has like a 25 outs above average season. That's a really good team actually, but I just don't see the pitching side of things coming through. It's really just, and it's ironic because they have such good pitching like staff to coach them. I just don't know if I trust all the young guys. This is a very young pitching staff outside of Mark Melanson.
Yeah.
I definitely agree with you at that 84, 85 win ceiling. As far as a floor goes, like I would say what was it, how many they went
74 and
what was their record
88.
last year? I would say around there would probably be their floor. What do you guys think on that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
And I don't honestly think you said before this that this team's volatile. I kind of disagree with that. It's just whether it's a competitive 77 plus win team or kind of just a lousy non-developing 74 to 77 win team.
I feel like that's what I kind of meant. Like, because their season last year, you would have been like 74 and 88. That's kind of bad. But you looked at how they played, and you saw so many parts of improvement across the entire roster, and you would say, man, that's a very good improvement. That's a breakout season for a whole team.
Mhm.
So I'm just kind of expecting more forward steps. The progress should just keep going. Maybe a couple more breakouts, just to show that the roster is in fact stacked. And they have more young guys coming up. So I think this is promising for a team like this.
Yeah. And so with that, I think it's time for Tom to get his tangy two
Yes.
balls.
Oh,